I'm Ian.
And I'm Jamie from King Voodoo.
And you're watching the Paranormal Brew.
Good evening, everyone. I am back again Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And I have a special guest. I know we were supposed to do the JFK conspiracy thing, which we moved up. There was a couple people, as you see, I'm booked out very far. So obviously sometimes things come up. So we rescheduled it. However, Brad was nice enough to say that he would still come on and talk ghosties with us and podcasts and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Mr. Klinge. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Very good. I have to say that I've been a fan of your guys, when Ghost Lab came out. I don't know if you guys, if you did anything prior to that. I just remember being so impressed with the Ghost Lab little...
Yeah.
So
what's funny about that is like we'd been around since, like our group, the Everyday Paranormal, was around since like 2007. That's when I started it.
Okay.
But it was just like a year later, is 2008, when a production company was looking for a show. Basically, it's a long story, but the old show Paranormal State, it's the production company that was doing them.
Okay.
Was looking for a show, basically because Discovery Channel was looking for a show, but they wanted it educational, scientific, a little bit different.
Right.
And that's where they found us. Now we've, the Ghost Lab was an idea that we've always had, that we wanted like a 26-foot car hauler trailer decked out. But, obviously the funds to do something like that just wasn't happening. So we always had like a remote station at our investigations and stuff that we treated like the Ghost Lab. Well, when we kind of pitched the idea, it's like, yeah, we can do this. And we also have this idea, we want to be in this Ghost Lab thing. And we didn't know what to call it at the time. We call it like a Paralab or whatever. That it's like a mobile surveillance unit, like a, FBI surveillance unit or something like that, where we can just plug and play and download, in these haunted locations. They're like, great.
Yeah.
At that time. And when you sign it, it's like, now you have Discovery Channel money and they can, they could buy stuff like that for you. So
that's awesome.
They dumped the trailer off in the Walmart parking lot, empty, just a shell of a trailer. And we decked it out with everything that we had.
I just remember being, and it actually, like, I learned a lot from watching the show too. I remember the first episode, and again, I have this incredible deep connection with Gettysburg. And I remember your first episode that aired, you had, and I talk about this video all the time. I show it all the time. That home video of the regiment of the soldiers walking across the field. And like in my head, I'm like, wow, that's a digital recording of a natural recording. Like it's
right.
You don't see that too often.
And and the whole thing is, everything that we do is scientific based. So it's like when that happened, it was a VHS camera. So it was like a magnetic tape, a VHS tape. But you're right. It was a physical magnetic tape, a scientific device recording something that was happening in the environment. Now that just led me to believe right there that whatever this is some sort of natural occurrence,
right? Because
you can videotape it, possibly you can record it, you can get sounds. So that's where we started, and that was I was 17 years old when I got that way. There was no such thing as a ghost hunter, really, and there was no shows. Definitely that was, and when it happened,
and it was a camcorder.
It was a camcorder. It was one of those big. It was like this big. It was one of those old VHS camcorders that you put on your shoulder. Had the big eyepiece and everything like that. But I was 17 and didn't. When it happened, it was I've had the little weird things happen to me over the years when I was younger and stuff like that. But it's like at that moment, it was that moment where you go, you know what? Yep, this stuff is real. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got into it the same time, and well, no, not the same time. I'm sorry. I had my first experience in 2007, and that was Gettysburg, right? And that's what kind of triggered me. But prior to that, my mom said, like, I showed her your video, and there was at one point where because we were staying a double day in, and that's like right there. So we were like pulling in to pull into the inn, and there's that really big field right there past the railroad cut. And she's like, why are there all those rangers out there? what are they doing? Like, something must be going on. Cause it was like probably 11:30, 12 a.m. in the morning,
Mhm.
and she's like, what the heck is going on? And she wanted to experience something at this point. I was like, no, no, no. It was before I was, into it, and she, that expression, you look like you just saw a ghost. Like I saw that for the first time. Like she jumped back as we were driving. She jumped back. She's like, did you just see them? And I said, what? She's like, they were Confederate. They were like Confederate soldiers. Like they were just like walking. I'm like, did they have guns and stuff? She's like, yeah, they almost walked into your car, but they didn't even look at us. Like they didn't even react.
Yeah.
And I immediately look in my rear view. There's nothing there. But no, like I didn't have that experience, but she did.
Well,
But
the one thing that just made, as the years went on, the video became more and more, uh, what's the word? I don't know why I can't. It's been a long day. I can't think of the right word. But it became more and more obvious that what had happened was paranormal, because
authenticated, I guess.
it's more authentic. Even to me, I was the one that took it. I was the one that saw the things disappearing from my eyes. So it's not like, I had to convince myself. But as the years gone on, we learned more and more things. And like, for example, I was, like I said, I was 17. It was in 1990. I didn't know exactly where it was until Barry and I went back to, we were at Phenomenology for the first time. And then when they had it in that convention they have in Gettysburg, and this was back in like 2009. And we went out looking. Our job, we were going to go find where that was, because there was there's a monument in the background, and we wanted to match it up. We matched it up perfectly to the Virginia Monument, which is basically General Lee's statue that's out on Pickett's Charge, out on the on Confederate Avenue, and it's that field right in front of it, and we matched it up perfectly. I've been out there probably 20 times since. We're going back in April too. We're going to be up there. Well, end of April. And just to stand there and look at it, and it's the same as it was in 1990. But what we noticed in the video, and you don't think about this, but if there was an actual reenactment, there'd be tens of thousands of people around.
Yeah, okay? For sure.
There wasn't anybody in that video except who was on the tape.
Right.
The second thing, what we learned when we were at Phenomenology, was one of the park rangers told us that they are not allowed to do reenactments on the actual battlefields. They do them outside of town.
Mm-hmm.
The only time that they allowed reenactments was for the movie Gettysburg.
Right.
And there were some paranormal experiences that happened with that. I can talk about that later. But it's like, okay, so number one, these 12, 15 guys, whatever it was, wandering across the field in full gear are not going to risk getting arrested.
Right.
Because they were serious. When we were filming there, we were at the neighborhood that was right, there's a neighborhood right next to where that field is, kind of closer to Emmitsburg Pike.
Yeah.
And I was standing on the sidewalk, and they were filming us, and I literally put my foot on the grass. Like, you shift your body around. I put my foot on the grass. A park ranger pulled up, there's lights on, and he threatened to shut down the entire production if we didn't get off the battlefield.
Really?
And it's like, literally, I just lifted my foot and put it back on the sidewalk, and that was okay. So it's like, these guys are serious about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I also learned though too, you can't have, like, even if they're fake, even if they're replicas or whatever, like guns.
Yeah.
In the park, it's national parks, so they don't allow that either, even if they
mind you, this is 1990, but I think that a lot of the same rules apply. In fact, they're probably a lot stricter back then than they are now, just considering of the Gettysburg has increased in tourism, and a lot of it is thanks to the whole haunted thing, the whole ghost thing.
Yeah, I mean, now you can basically go everywhere you want to go, like walk through the fields and stuff, but they're changing some of that again because they're noticing that the land is getting kind of messed up over the years from people trekking through it and walking through it and stuff.
Right.
So, but that was so then I remember watching your show, and you guys did, because up until that point, you always hear about provoking, and I might be using the wrong word, but especially in your case, because it wasn't like the provoking that everybody says don't provoke. Like, you guys would recreate an environment wherever you were at.
Yeah, and provocation, it's funny, the definition of provocation is just trying to elicit a response. So me winking my eye or waving my hand, that's provoking. Anything where you're trying to get something to respond to you is provoking. Of course, in paranormal, it has a negative connotation of yelling and screaming and whatever. And we do lectures all over the world about, this is, there's a method to our madness. Yes, we can get downright nasty. We're big Texas boys, and we can fight just as good as the next guy. And we use that in environments where intimidation is a factor. Prisons, asylums, things of that nature, where the intimidation factor is what's going to elicit the response. We always say we're not going to go to some grandma's house, bake cookies for the neighborhood kids and, get in there, get out of here, you old bag, we're not going to provoke in situations like that. We're going to do different things. But, the reenactment thing, the whole, what we call error cues, is a very specific science to us. I mean, I know everyone says, people do reenactments all the time, but it has to be the right environment. It has to do with quantum physics. It has to do with, parallel universes, that everything has a frequency, and areas that had a very instant traumatic type frequency. Battlefields are great. Murder scenes are great. Anywhere where in some one small point in time in history, something large happened that affected, lots of people, is where these frequencies are the highest. And we figure if we can go to these locations and try to match the frequency by doing and it's not just putting on clothes and going out and act like a fool. It's putting on historically accurate reenactments. And we have found time and time again that we get responses. Now, we think that it has to do with parallel universes, that we're kind of matching those frequencies, and we're actually able to see into that time, and they're able to see into our time. But when we have lectures that talk all about this kind of stuff. But yeah, there's a definite method to our madness when it comes to that sort of stuff.
And that was like new. That was like something new to me anyway. Like when you guys first came out, and I was just like, wow. So I never missed an episode. I'm not, it was just such a good show. I do miss it. Do you miss it? Do you miss doing it?
Yeah. Missed the show and the great locations we got to go to on someone else's dime. We stayed at Alcatraz for 4 days by ourselves, and there's some of this exclusive access that we got to do. The travel and the time away from home wasn't that great. I mean, we were on the road like 6 to 8 weeks at a time, solid. Come home for like 2 or 3 days and go back out for another 5 or 6 weeks. Come home for like 3 or 4 days, go back out for another 6 weeks. Oh. It was a lot of road time.
Wow.
And that got kind of old, after a while. But it was obviously, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Right.
And what's funny is Barry and I, we don't, and a lot of people, we don't. People think that they must hunt ghosts for a living. We never hunted ghosts. The only time that we hunted ghosts for a living was when we were on Ghost Lab. But we had to actually quit our job. I'm a consultant. I'm a computer consultant. Barry's a special ed teacher.
Yeah.
And we had to quit our careers to do that. Me personally, I made more money being a computer consultant than obviously going on television. People think you get rich on television. You don't. And it's it took half a salary cut, but it was like it was an opportunity of a lifetime, and I wasn't going to not do that. So we have no regrets whatsoever doing that.
That's
show.
Awesome. So prior to ever, like, are you one of those people that like grew up in a haunted house, or like you've always been? You guys were always you and Barry both were always interested. You guys always did stuff like that together.
No, we really didn't. I mean, hindsight's 2020. We used to have like little incidents. The house we grew up in, our grandmother died in, and we thought we saw her every now and then, and some weird stuff happened in the house, but you never really thought too much of it. It really wasn't until my adult years after college where I would travel. I would go to different places, and I was always interested in ghosts. I used to love like unsolved mysteries, and when they had like the ghost segments and stuff like that. I used to read the ghost books when I was in elementary school. So I really always had an interest in it. But it was when I started to be able to travel with my job that I would go to these different places, and I would do they started to do local ghost tours. And, like San Francisco has one, even Kissimmee, Florida has one, and Chicago has one. And I used to, every time I go somewhere, I'd find the local ghost tour and I'd go explore the city and learn all the stuff. And it was the one time I went to San Francisco where I went out to Alcatraz for the night tour. It was the evening tour. It was the last one of the day. And before I went out there, I stopped at a Radio Shack along the way, and I got a recorder, a digital audio recorder. I was like, this is like, I think Ghost Hunters had just come out. And, you know, it was kind of those things where it's like digital audio recorders. Things really work. Let's give it a shot.
Right.
And so went out there, and as luck would have it, the boat that would take you back from Alcatraz back to the dock broke down for a while. So I asked the ranger, I said, can I go back up into the building? And he said, oh yeah, sure, whatever. You know, just be back down here in like in an hour or whatever. So I went back up there with my little audio recorder, and I went into like the solitary confinement, and I was by myself. I think there was one park ranger who was like 300 yards away. And I got in that cell, and I turned that recorder on. And in a matter of like 7 or 8 minutes, when I was in there, I got 3 clear EVPs. And I was hooked at that point. I was like, it can't be this easy. And it really isn't. I just got lucky, you know.
Right.
But, you know, at that time, I think, you know, Ghost Hunters was the only one that was out there. And then very shortly after, you know, because we started to post our evidence and talk about things and do little videos. And that's what got the attention of the producers. And at the time we came on, there was 4 major ghost shows. There was Ghost Hunters on Sci-Fi. There was us on Discovery. There's Paranormal State on A&E, and there was Ghost Adventures on.
That was on when you guys were on?
And that was we were the only 4. We were like the original 4 major ghost shows.
It's interesting. Well, I was probably always watching you and Ghost Hunters. I didn't even realize Ghost Adventures. I remember
they had started their first show was like maybe a year or so before ours, or a year or two. They were we kind of started around the same time.
Wow.
They were a little bit before us though.
Well, you know, I think that you guys should probably still be on, and I'll stop there with that statement, but
it's funny. It's
just my opinion.
You know, Barry and I, we're known to butt heads, and you know, I mean, not with each other, with people who try to tell us what to do. And there is a lot of getting used to how Hollywood and production companies work, and you know what they want, and what they just. We found out that they don't know. It's funny that they put on television shows, but they don't know how to film a television show. They basically think they know how, but for a paranormal show, they would do weird things, just kind of like put things out of sequence, and it didn't make sense, but they thought it did to the viewer, but it was actually a cooler story if they told it in the exact little things like that. And we were always very vocal about that kind of stuff. And, you know, one thing led to another. The Discovery Channel went through like 3 presidents at the time, and the last one who was there, he didn't like paranormal. And, you know, if you notice, ever since we left Discovery, there really wasn't a paranormal show on Discovery. I don't really think there's one now. I mean, of course, Discovery Plus plays all the old episodes of everything, but, you know, they didn't like it. And you're basically at the mercy of what a president of a network likes or don't like. And he didn't like ghosts, and that was it for us.
There was a question about the shows here. Hold on. I was going to wait till the end, but Darren asked a question. He said, is there a paranormal show out there now that grabs your attention? Did you watch them? Did you watch them because I find a lot of people don't, if you're doing the shows.
I'll be honest with you. I used to watch Ghost Hunters a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and it was the early days, the real early days. And it was just because it was an interest that I had, that it was like, oh, hey, finally, you know, there's a show that's exclusively about ghosts and haunted stories and things like that. And that's what kind of drew me to it. But when I was watching it, and nothing against them, I'm great friends with Jason Hawes and all those guys. It's like, but it's like, when I watched it, it was like, man, I would do it differently.
Right.
You know, they're not answering the questions that I want to answer. Not that they're doing anything wrong. It's just they weren't doing it the way I would do it. And that I took it, you know, the bull by the horns at that point in myself. So, you know what? I'm just going to go out for my own team. I'm going to go do this stuff the way I want to do it. And that's how that started. That's
awesome. And then, and I'm glad that you guys did definitely come on. And then William is asking Nighthawk, he said, would they get back together. I think that's what you mean, to do a paranormal investigation if you could. I guess maybe.
We actually still do paranormal investigations, and that's we don't necessarily do it for television. Although the television companies come knocking all the time, but we still do a lot of investigations, and we talk. And what we're doing right now is, our podcast, which is it's called The Investigators. It was renamed from Everyday Paranormal Podcast recently to The Investigators, where we're talking about we're kind of diving deep into the Ghost Lab episodes, but we're also going to be talking about the newer investigations, some of the older ones prior to Ghost Lab, and we're talking about the methods and everything behind the scenes and the just the investigative story.
Mhm.
So we still have loads of locations that we're trying to line up to go do. So yeah, we haven't stopped. Just because you haven't seen us on TV doesn't mean that we're not out there still doing it.
No, that's awesome. And you know what? That actually leaves like an open thing for like down the road where you guys have like these investigations, and like you can call it like the um like the lost case files of Brad and Barry Klinge. You know what I mean? Maybe come out with like if you get like really
We
good
have
stuff.
I probably in this drawer next to me, I probably have like 6 hard drives full of stuff that we did prior to Ghost Lab. And we
Mhm.
really think that we got some of our better evidence prior to Ghost Lab. And we've thought about that a lot. It's like, hey, it's come out with like a best of or whatever, but we have so much going on with between 2 podcasts and just everything that we're doing that I haven't really had time to go back and think about that.
Yeah, that would be cool though. Well, let's talk about your podcast. How you guys are going to be starting that, correct? Like, isn't that something new that's come up?
Yeah, well, actually, we've been doing it since Halloween of last year. We have
Okay.
about 11 episodes out right now,
Oh,
and it's
awesome.
it's on all like the Spotify's and
So,
iTunes and all that kind of stuff.
so it's audio. It's like
It's
audio.
audio. It's
Okay.
audio, and it's called The Investigators. So if you go look for it now,
Right.
it's called The Investigators,
Right.
and it's me, my brother, and Katie, who is the girl who was on our show, and we chew the fat, and we joke around. We're very down to earth about stuff. It's not like one of those, paranormal 101. Here's how an EVP works and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
We're poking on each other and telling funny stories and talking about these cases and talking about the history of and even joking about that, and it's just a conversation, and it's doing. It's funny, we do it just because we like to do it, but it's like the thing is at this point is getting over 100,000 downloads a month per episode. And, in the podcast world, that's like crazy.
That's
But we're
awesome.
also and we do it a little different because it's like we have an intro. So I don't know if Deborah Wilson is a really good friend of ours. She always has been. And Deborah was on Mad TV. She used to play Oprah Winfrey. She used to always imitate Oprah
Oh,
Winfrey on
yes.
Mad TV.
Okay.
She's in a lot of commercials. She's been on Disney Channel, like That's So Raven and all. Like she does voices. She's basically a voiceover artist now. She does a lot of voices for Family Guy, like all the Marvel. She does like all the video games. She does voices for.
Oh, wow.
She was the demon on The Nun. She was the voice of the demon on that movie, The Nun.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
she's a real good friend, and obviously she has a real good voice because that's what she does for a living. But we write the intros to our podcasts, like a storytelling, and she tells the story,
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
it's like 2 or 3 minutes worth. But it was so cool to listen to her tell the story. We had an idea for another podcast. It's called Ominous. That's also out on all the platforms. Where I write all the stories, and these stories they're not just fictitious stories. They are stories of things that have actually happened to us and things that have happened to people that we directly know. It's not like
Okay.
some fifth party removed story of, hearsay. It either happened to us personally or we know the person personally that it did. And we write the entire story out. But we write it in a very flowery form or whatever. And she reads it and you put sound effects and music to it. Oh my God, it gives you goosebumps when you listen to these stories. And then that one's taking off really well. But that one's fun because now my writing skills are coming into play. I always thought I was a good writer, but now it's like, I get to write all these short stories. But the coolest part is that we're actually documenting the things that have happened to us over time. And now someone like Deborah is telling our stories,
Oh, that's
and it
cool.
sounds so cool coming from her. And it's grandkids, great grandkids, they're gonna be able to listen to this kind of stuff and say, that's pretty cool.
Um, that's something I do now. Is it on iHeartRadio or anything like that, or
Yeah,
is it
it's on
just
all that. It's on like every
okay?
major
Cool.
platform that there is. That one's called Ominous, and the other one's called The Investigators.
So just so you know, I'm not a very good techie person. Like I
Mm,
literally been on this. April 1st will be 5 years I've had my show,
yeah.
and I just got a microphone. So
I tell you what, klingbros.com, if you go there, I post all the podcasts on there. So that makes it simple.
okay, good. Okay, good.
It takes you directly to like wherever you go, but you just click on it and it plays right off the website. So both Ominous
Awesome.
and The Investigators are on there.
Awesome. I'm like when I saw that you were doing something like that, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And what am I allowed to say anything about the JFK? Like, can we talk about that? Just because I learned something about you that I didn't know, but you would do
What's that?
tours. Can you talk
Yes.
about that?
So what's funny is it's like I don't know. I become a tour guide at different places. I've done events where I go up to Gettysburg. I actually rent like a big bus and a bunch of people come up and I do the battle. I'll do battlefield tours up
That's
there
awesome. I
myself.
would
But
love to do that with you. That would be
I
so
put a
cool.
paranormal twist to it. Like I'll tell the paranormal stories that I know along with it. Those are fun. But yeah, I'm from San Antonio. You can tell by the Texas thing that's behind me. And we're about 4 hours from Dallas, which is obviously where Kennedy was assassinated. Ever since I was a kid, I used to go up there and you go downtown and you go over to Dealey Plaza, which is right off the edge of downtown. And the book depository is there, and the grassy knoll and the fence, and it hasn't changed. It literally, you go up there today, it has not changed one bit. And I started when I was up there. There was a lot of people that were coming around, and it wasn't like official tours. It wasn't like it's the Brad Klinge JFK assassination tour. It was more or less, when I would go
Oh
up there
yeah.
and I would stand around, people would start to gather because I was telling stories and I was saying
Right.
up here and up there. It looked like I was a tour guide
Right.
or giving a tour. And so I thought, hey, this is pretty cool. Let's see how often I can do this. And once that crowd would leave, I would go back down to another spot. I start talking to one or two people, and another crowd would gather. And so I kind of like going up there and just, on my own, just telling people, my rendition of the story and the things that I know and stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely not, and there's no official tour, but I
It's
do
still
that.
cool. I do that. I do it when I go to Gettysburg. Like I will. Well, I do a lot of lives when I go there. So I'll go live and just walk through the park and go to like when I'm there by myself, like because I'll go by myself a lot. I will just go live on Facebook and take people around with me, and they experience Gettysburg if they've ever been there, and it makes them want to come. But I'll do like little EVP sessions here and there throughout the park, or in places and stuff like that. And I love doing that. I love doing that stuff. Not and like I said, then people will like kind of like come up to me and start talking to me like, "What are you doing? Are you filming something?" And and you just start talking to them and you tell them like, and then they're like, "Oh," and everybody that watches, it just pulls them into Gettysburg, which is awesome.
Yeah, and it's when I do those tours and stuff, I talk in very normal, I'm not I don't speak tour guysese, where
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like they're very, very specific about the names and the times and the dates. It's more like, hey, over on that ridge right there,
right.
man, 25,000 Confederates walking there. Imagine what that must have looked like. It's like
Right,
just storytelling,
right.
and basically that's what we've become. We're investigators, but we're storytellers now, and we actually enjoy it. We enjoy, and it's like I said, it's not fictitious stories that where they say that the truth is stranger than fiction,
Right.
and we enjoy doing that.
Listen to this Gettysburg again. So there's like all these people that are like say that I should be mayor of Gettysburg. It's not. um. So, um. So no talks of. Would you ever do like this stuff like this like video too? Besides just the audio, like would you ever do like the live streaming and stuff? Or
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I have found we've tried it. We've actually put the video camera on and stuff. And I have found that if I'm just kicked back with my feet up, with not worrying about a camera or whatever, I actually enjoy it better. I'll, talk more. I'll, kind of get into it more. And also with the video production, it's just because I do everything. It's like the rendering the audio and doing all the special effects and the music and the this and the that. I do that.
Mhm.
And we do have a media company that helps out and does some different things, but for the most part, I'm putting all it together. The video is just one more aspect where it's like, oh, one more thing I have to do. So we're like, you know
Right.
what? Let's just do audio. Let's just go old school, like the 40s, where everyone gathered around the radio and listened and that sort of thing. We do have a couple documentaries of some of the more interesting places that we go, very, very short, 10, 12 minute little documentaries that I'm actually putting together and stuff like that we'll put out there.
Mhm.
And we actually will probably eventually do a video portion of the podcast, but it's going to be more than just, the,
Like this.
the camera like this.
Yeah.
It's going to be, we'll have some static cameras, in different places and we'll film the whole thing and we'll edit between it. So it looks really, really professional.
That's awesome.
I just don't have the time to do that right now, but eventually we'll get to that point.
It's crazy how it feels like things like this have popped up so like all over the place. And we were talking about it, and I was talking about it with somebody, and I said, well, I mean, COVID restricted a lot of people from doing things. You know what I mean? So like this was like the next thing, to hang out with people or see people, talk to people, or whatever. And this year, it's like all of a sudden all these paranormal stuff is happening. So I see what you're saying about like just all of a sudden becoming like so busy.
Mhm.
And can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
So are you married? Do you have a family?
Yep.
And then, so how have they, I mean, like you were talking about like all the travel time and all this and that. I mean, was that tough for you guys, or because I imagine that was like new for everybody?
So as like I said, as a consultant, I would travel as a part of my job anyway, but
Oh,
it
okay.
wasn't like 6 to 8 weeks at a time. It was like gone for a week, back 3 or 4 weeks, and maybe gone for another week. So as far as hey, dad's traveling, that was kind of normal. But at the time, my kids were fairly young. Like my oldest, let's see, how old was she? 98, 2008. She was about 11 years old. My oldest at the time we were filming Ghost Lab. She's what's funny. It's like it tells you how long ago she just turned 24.
Wow.
She was 11 when I started filming the show. And my youngest was literally he was just born, and she said he was maybe 2 years old. So for that 2.5 year time frame where we were just traveling a lot, they don't really remember,
Yeah.
because they were
Mhm.
so young. Now my wife had to hold down the fort and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. But fortunately, I live in the area that I grew up in. The high school I went to is right down the street. My kids went to all the same schools, so
Mhm.
all my family lives around here. All of Barry, Barry's family, his family is my family. Um, we all live around here, so there's a big support system and stuff like that. So it wasn't like she was just down on an island or something like that. So yeah, and it definitely took commitment. When we got the show, Barry and I were on the road traveling around with the producer looking for locations. When they first wanted a Ghost Lab, they said that it was going to be a 3 episode pilot and they were just
Mm,
going to try it out. Well,
right.
then that turned almost immediately to they want 6 episodes. And then we were on the road like 3 days later. They wanted 13 full blown 1 hour episodes for the first season. And this was in April. They wanted it by October. And
Wow.
so the producer, we pulled over to the side of the road in Mississippi at a restaurant, and he looked at us. He goes, "Well, boys, it's do or die." We went out to the parking lot. We called our wife and said, "We're quitting our job and we're doing this. We're doing this ghost filming thing full time." And both my wife and Barry's wife said, "Go for it, no hesitation." So
Wow, that's
great
awesome.
support system.
That is awesome. That's what you need. And I, it's for some, it's a struggle, you know what I mean? Because people just aren't used to, I'm sure, you went from, and a lot of people would recognize you. I mean, I think I met you guys I was at Phenom by myself that one year. And I think when I met you guys, and you guys were so awesome. You guys are so friendly and so awesome. And when you say you guys are big guys, you guys are big guys. I'm like 5'3", 120 pounds, and you two are like standing on both sides of me. So I look like this little thing. But you guys were really, really cool when I met you back then. I think you already answered this, to be honest with you. So if you had full creative control and final say in production, would you do another show?
Yeah. Yeah, we never, like I said, we get approached all the time. In fact, there was one about 2 years ago that almost went the distance, and um, COVID happened.
Mm,
So basically, everything was lining up and it was looking good, and then COVID happened, and then basically production shut down altogether. You saw all the TV shows; everyone was like, even like Jimmy Kimmel and like all those shows, they were literally doing it like here, like from their house.
right.
And so it took a while for things to come back. One thing leads to another. Networks change their mind like as the winds blow. But we work all the time, but you're right. We're definitely not going to. In fact, we did turn something down with a network because we thought it was stupid. We were
Mhm.
like, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And we would have to have the control, and I think at this point in the game, everyone they realize that hey, we know what we're doing, and we're going to put forth a great product. So just kind of give us the reins, and we can take it home. But definitely, we'll never say never to anything in our
Right.
lives.
Right. It has to feel right. It has
Yeah.
to feel like the right thing.
And we were fortunate enough to do. We did it, and I know there's a lot of people out there, and I posted this on Facebook the other day because it was really disappointing that I do see a lot of people that are just so desperate for the attention that they would do anything for
Right.
to be on TV, to be on an episode, it's like, guys, I know it might sound hypocritical because I had a TV show for like 2 years, and I've done that, but it's not everything. It's not. It doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't make you more interesting of a person. Find your way, and that's the reason that we got on TV. We didn't try. We didn't
Right.
audition. We didn't. They found us because we were doing what we loved, and we were doing it good, doing it
Absolutely.
well. Sorry,
Yeah. No.
proper grammar there.
Believe me. There's no properness here.
We were doing it good when Texas came out.
All right. So since you grew up in the town you're in, and everybody, do you have certain locations that do you do anything in town, and are there places that let you guys kind of frequent?
Yeah, well, back before the show, we there was a lot of places. There was the Institute of Texan Cultures, and there was there was the Seguin Theater. We still do stuff out there. There's a few locations around here that we can kind of go to when we want. We actually have access to the 6-bedroom mansion. It's right out of downtown San Antonio that has a very cool history, and it's super haunted.
Oh, cool.
And we go there, quite a bit. In fact, one of our documentaries that I was talking about, we're doing it on that place.
Oh, that's cool.
And but yeah, San Antonio is a very haunted city. It has a lot of history, and the Alamo and everything around it, and all the stuff. But there's not a lot of places that what I say regular people, just like if you have a regular paranormal group or whatever, there's not a lot of places where you have access like that. We were fortunate enough back then where it was kind of a newer thing, and we got to know someone who had the ability to get us in, and we were always trying to find that person that we could say, hey, come along with us. They want to experience a ghost hunt. They say, well, I'll let you in if I can go along with you. We're like, yeah, fine, whatever, and then you establish a really good relationship. They find out that you're really cool people, and you're not going to be in there destroying things and whatever, and they'll let you back in all the time.
Mhm.
We did that. We had a lot of places like that, but nowadays, no, there's not, we like to venture outside, probably because we've done the things around here 1,000 times. So to us, it's like, let's go find something new.
Do you find it easier to get into places because of the ghost lab and people, you know what I mean? Do you find that it's easier for you? Like, could you just call a place up and be like, hey,
It is usually people are contacting us to come,
okay.
and that makes it easier, obviously, because it's like you can feel them out, because there's some places that just want you to come there, and they want to do an event, or they want to do this. And Barry and I, at this point, it's like, if we want to go there, hey, let us go there, but let us investigate by ourselves.
Yeah.
Let us just go in there and see what we can find. We'll do a podcast about it. We'll talk about it. but it's not for the show. It's not for the, for all that stuff. But yeah, a lot of people, they do contact us, and what we found out is that if we contact someplace and they know that we're on a TV show, and if they'll like, oh yeah, you can come here for $10,000, like it's like we're sitting on piles of money or something like that.
Oh my
Like we have,
God.
and it's yeah, it's people have a preconceived notion of what people who are on TV, like I said, like we're sitting on piles of cash, which is totally not true.
But that's like so ridiculous. Why would they charge you guys to come there? Because you would think it, if, especially if it's like an inn or, a historic location that needs
It,
preservation.
like I said, it doesn't happen every time. It has happened, and
Yeah.
especially this. So Barry and I like to do like public events where we have there's like a group of 10 or 12 people that like to follow us around and go to different places that we do. And every now and then we'll find a location. We'll say, hey, does everybody want to gather here on this weekend and whatever? And then, so if we call that place and they find out we're doing that, they kind of want a piece of the action. It's like, you don't realize
Mm,
we're not making money off this. We're not even breaking even. We're losing. It's like, it's just, we're splitting the cost, basically, if
yeah.
you want to look at it like that. But they see it as an event and they think that there's money to be made. So
Wow.
we just
That's
avoid those places though.
yeah. Uh, have you ever done besides the show? Because I obviously, but have you gone back and done anything in Gettysburg? Well,
Barry and I have been to Gettysburg shoot since we did the show like in 2010. We've probably been to Gettysburg a dozen times or
hmm
more.
hmm
And in fact, like I said, we're going up there with Deborah.
hmm
Our friend. We're going up there in at the end of March. No, I'm sorry, not the end of March. This is the end of
and,
March. The end
and
of
the
April.
yeah.
And we're going to show her Gettysburg. We're going to give her like the private tours and like all that kind of stuff, and just have a good time. Just not have an agenda that we have to do an event, that we have to speak, that we have to entertain people. We're just going
Right.
up there on our own and just going to do our own thing.
Uh, so just so you know, Little Round Top and Devil's Den are going to be closed.
Why? Were they doing reconstruction of the roads or something?
hmm Devil's Den actually was a surprise. Like everybody was kind of like, because I follow like the National Park Service and all this stuff,
Mm,
and a lot of people we like the Little Round Top obviously was like a big thing. They've been talking about that since last year, how they were going to close it, and um, so they could like do renovations and stuff, and then all of a sudden there's a podcast I follow, it's called Addressing Gettysburg, and they were at Devil's Den 2 nights ago for the sunset, and they were saying how that's closing for 6 months. And I'm like, so they're closing Devil's Den and Little Round Top, like two of the biggest.
yeah. Do you
Yeah,
know how? I mean, do you know how true that? Because I know they have to do renovations and stuff like that, but I don't. I can't imagine for that long,
I know.
because they don't want to lose those tourism dollars.
I know. Believe me, I have been so hardcore following this, but it's true. Like they're saying, Devil's Den 6 months, and then Little Round Top would be like anywhere from 12 to 18 months.
Well, I can see Devil's Den. We were just up there a few months ago, and it's like the steps that go up to like all the
Yes.
different boulders. Those things are like falling apart, and it's like treacherous walking up in there right now.
Yeah. You
And
you said you said Devil's Den.
yeah,
Yeah, it is. It's a lot. And then some of the boulders. I mean, there's one boulder that's like literally a point, and it's like this huge boulder. And there's like a point that's sitting on top of another one. I can't go up that way. I'm like always so afraid the boulder's just gonna my luck.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's been there for hundreds and or even thousands of years, and the minute you're there, it falls
I
over.
know, right?
No, but it's fine. I mean, if it's closed, I mean, we can see it from a distance, and we can
Yeah.
talk about it, whatever. But yeah, that's kind of suck. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, because Little Round Top is I go there to watch the sunset every time I go, and it's like it kind of like just cleanses me and recharges my battery, and I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I love Gettysburg. I'm sure we're gonna find somewhere else, but
Yeah.
it's
Well,
very
it's
disappointing.
there does come a time where you have to do renovations and you have to, that
hmm
kind of stuff. So
Um, hmm, they said that when they had vandalizing, I'm not sure I understand that. Sorry, Sharon. Um, so I have to I thought like you guys were I didn't even know it was because I don't listen to radio like the internet radio stuff, so I had like no idea. So I have to check out your show. I'm like really excited to do that because I had no idea that you were doing that. And well, I mean, I knew now, when I was looking up, but I didn't
Yeah.
know that it was.
No,
I,
check it out. Like it's of course, everyone says, "Oh, my podcast is really entertaining." We have a lot of fun making it, and when we go back and listen to it, and we do the edits and stuff, we actually kind of laugh and at some of the stuff that's being said. So it's entertaining.
so did you say you and Barry both do the ominous?
So yeah, Barry and I. So I write it. Barry is a part of it because he deals with the media company and stuff like that. I write it, and Deborah narrates it,
Okay.
and so that's just us, and then me, Barry, and Katie do the investigators. But we're actually on that one. We're not on ominous. It's all Deborah's narration.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Hmm.
And then what you were saying about like your documentaries and how you guys still investigate. Does Katie do that with you still? Is it just the three of you, or is like do
Yeah,
you
when
have
she
people-
can. She actually lives in California now.
Oh, yeah, oh
But
God.
so when we can, we do. But if it's if we have an opportunity, Barry and I will just go out and do it.
Oh, okay. So she doesn't always do them with you, but
Yeah, she doesn't always do them with us. Yeah, but like I said, she may move back to Texas at some point, and if she does, she'll be that much more available to go do more stuff. So
Uh-huh.
we'll
Do you
see.
guys ever have like guests on your show?
We do every now and then. We've out of 11 shows, we've had two. Our Lizzie
Mhm.
Borden episode, we had the lawyer who we used in our episode,
Okay.
and in the Ghost Lab episode, and then Tim Shaw, he was on recently because we talked about Fort Niagara because he was on our Fort Niagara Ghost Lab episode,
Oh,
and
that's
so we
cool.
brought him on to talk about it.
That's awesome. And I feel like this is so Q&A, and I was like, yeah, I don't do that. It's not my role. But anyway, I have a lot of questions. Of all of the locations you've been to, which was your favorite?
I really liked Alcatraz simply because of the exclusivity that we had, the exclusive access that we had, being able to go down the dungeon, being out there at the 3-4 in the morning when there was pea soup fog and all you can hear was the foghorn, and you can see the city. When on a clear day you see the city just right across there, and you can smell the chocolate from the Ghirardelli's factory, and this must have been torture for these guys
Oh,
to
yeah.
be that close to civilization and actually see and hear the parties and smell the food and know that you're locked away forever. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
It's
Like,
torture.
as Alcatraz could have been any more torturous
Right.
inside.
But it's very cool. It's the Rock, and we had
Yeah.
4-day access to the thing, and it was very cool.
Is it more geared? Like, do they hype up the like paranormal stuff there, or
They
is
really
it
don't. They really
no?
don't. It's in fact, when we went there was some Disney show that was there just prior to us, and there was a bunch of kids, and they were like kind of peeling paint off walls and stuff like that, and they had like stick posters and stuff there, and they were ripping off and it was peeling some of the paint, and
Oh,
the park rangers kind of got pissed, and we almost weren't able to do it, but
oh my
but
goodness.
no, they don't really. Their tour is all historic.
Historic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it true? And I heard this a long time ago that it's kind of eroding into they think like eventually it's gonna kind of just go into the sea.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
That place is pretty solid. I mean, it's an ancient island. I mean, it's been out there forever. So
Okay,
it's like
good.
if it would have, and it's very high. I mean, when you get there, you pull up into the dock, you look up, and the prison is like way the hell up there, and you have to walk these steep paths to get up to the top. And a lot of people don't know this, but it was originally a Civil War fort, and the prison is actually built on top of the fort. So when you go down into the dungeon, you're
Oh,
actually walking in the moat of the fort, and you can actually you can see the fort. Like a
oh, that's cool.
what's a good example? Like like some of the Revolutionary War, Civil War forts you see with the walls that it's
Yeah. The
square and there's a
bunker.
moat around it.
Yeah.
That's Alcatraz prison is literally sitting on top of that, and when you go underneath it, you can see all that, but it's
Oh, that's
underneath the
awesome.
prison,
Oh, that's so cool.
and that's very haunted down there. Because of that, because of the history.
Do they, when you do like the day tours and stuff, do they let people go? Do they let people go?
No, well, it's been a while since I don't know if they added to their tour, but it was an off limits place when we were there.
Really? Well, maybe it's on. Maybe they think it's unstable or something. I don't know.
I don't know. It's
That
so
would
cool
be-
though. It's because
Yeah.
you look and you're like, wow, that's a fort, and it's like, and we're in Alcatraz, and the building's above you, and the fort is right in front of you.
Oh wow! I didn't know that. I did not
Mhm.
know that, and that makes that place the history of it. Makes because I love historical places. I love the old architecture, but I also love like the old like Civil War, Revolutionary War stuff, like all that.
Right.
So
They didn't see too much. They didn't see too much Civil War action in San Francisco Bay, but it was a fort nonetheless during the time.
yeah, that is awesome. That is so cool. Being there though, do you the guys that they said escaped?
Hmm.
Like, do you have an opinion about that? At all?
Yeah, I think they washed out. They probably drowned because what they did was they took rain jackets or rain slickers, that rubber rain slickers that they had, and they took model glue from the craft area, and they sealed it, and then they took those what they call them, the pumps that the for the furnace,
Yeah. Oh yeah, to blow
they
the
took
air.
one of those
Yeah.
to blow it up like a raft, and so it was literally like a those pool rafts you see, those cheap ones you can buy at Walmart. It wasn't even as good as that. And if you've ever seen that water is churning. It's the currents go like every which way, and basically it takes you right out underneath the Golden Gate Bridge and into the Pacific Ocean, like quickly.
Right.
So I can only imagine that they got in the water and they drowned.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
And then they didn't find them. I mean, I imagine they probably
They probably got washed out to the Pacific Ocean
Yeah.
is what I think, and eaten by a shark or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something.
I wouldn't do it. Hell no, I wouldn't do it. I
No, I
just
mean,
it's
that
like,
was-
you know what? I'd wait 30 years for my sentence to be up before I even attempted that.
That's
I
so
would
crazy.
not get in that. And water's so cold too. It's very, very cold.
It's so crazy. Like when you watch all the shows about it, people are still like they survived, and people think they saw them living, and it's just like there's no way.
Yeah, it's always a possibility.
There is a possibility.
There is a possibility, but like I said, my personal opinion, when you stand there and look at it, you're like, nah, not in the middle of the night. They didn't.
I'll do a two because I know we're getting close to the end, and I want you to kind of like talk plug your stuff and everything. But is there a location that you haven't been to that is like your number one bucket list? And if you could talk to anybody in history or anybody that's living, whoever, to come on your show and talk to and have a conversation with, who would it be? Those two questions.
I've always wanted to do the White House.
Yes.
Simply because it's like as growing up, I used to read all the stories about Lincoln's ghost and Dolly Madison and all the ghosts that are supposed to be there. And we're talking about the AirQ thing, how about history and how. So think about how much emotional, traumatic, national energy has happened in the walls of that place over time. The fate of the world it happens in that building. And I thought it'd be really cool just like to stay in Lincoln's bedroom and just kind of experience it from an open access type thing. That'll probably never happen, but
right. Yeah. Oh my
whatever.
gosh, that would be so awesome.
And a lot of people think that a lot of people's answer is the Alamo. Now the Alamo is only 20 minutes from my driveway, but it's almost impossible to get into the Alamo just because it's a shrine. It's a state shrine, and they consider it disrespectful, and you have to take your hat off when you go in there and turn off your cell phones, and it's a very, very reverent place. So that's probably not going to happen either. But and so who would I talk to? Who would I talk to?
I know it's like a.
I tell you who I talked to. I talked to Elvis.
Elvis.
I'd love to talk to Elvis. I'm a huge Elvis fan. And in fact, one of our very first episode was the Shreveport Municipal Auditorium where, Elvis may have haunted. And I actually got to stand on the spot where Elvis got his start on the Louisiana Hayride and sing with the band, with some Elvis songs and stuff like that. And it was very, very cool. But we actually got to talk to James Burton, who was Elvis's guitarist for many years,
That's cool.
Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, and just he's Elvis. Not that he's had a huge influence on my life, but it's like I really, the guy has just an aura about him that I would just love to bend his ear on a few things.
Well, I would take the tour of Graceland and have my recorder on too, because you never know, right?
Yeah, we were just up in Memphis this summer, and I was working, but my daughter and my son and my wife, they went over and did the whole Graceland thing.
It's a time capsule. The house is like I haven't been there. I've seen pictures, and I'm like, man, what was
very tiny. It's very tiny. When you walk into, you don't think, oh man, it's
because it looks big.
Yeah, like a house, like in a neighborhood, like a 2-story house these days is big, but it's so gaudy. It's like it's that late 60s, 70s eclectic type, the jungle room and all that kind of stuff. And my daughter's into all that retro stuff, so she loved it.
Oh, that's cute. I couldn't do it because I wouldn't know how to decorate like that. But man, he really, he had like a jungle room. He had like all that, he was just all over the place.
Gaudy. It was, it's like you're looking at like, oh my God, this is bad. But it's Elvis, it's the 70s. It's what you think of him.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. My aunt, my uncle, who kind of became, my mom and my dad really, because, my dad passed when I was young and they're huge Elvis fan, huge. So when I moved back into my hometown where they live now, in memory of my uncle, I'm going to put over my front door, Graceland, because, we kind of call our town Graceland just because, but
my daughter, the one who went up there, her middle name is Grace, and that's for Graceland. So
that's so cool. Oh, there's something else I didn't know about you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell my aunt. I'm like, you're never gonna love it.
It was either that or Priscilla, but Grace just sounded better.
Yes, yeah. Grace is cute. I like it. So, do you want to just tell everybody where they can find you? And
you go to klingebros.com. You go to our Facebook page is Klinge Bros podcast, and look us up. We have if you go to our website, all of our podcasts are on there. You can go if you have Spotify, Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all the major platforms. You can go find. It's called The Investigators. That's the one that me, Barry, and Katie are on, where we talk about our investigations. And then there's Ominous, which is a storytelling narration that has action and music and sound effects and things, narrated by Deborah Wilson and written by me. And it's all true stories about everything that's happened to us and people that we know directly. So that's what we're doing now, but keep an eye out because there's a lot of things that we're working on that we really can't talk about right now. I hate when people say that, but it's true. There are things going on that you don't want to jinx yourself. You also don't want to let cat out of the bag. You're also under certain agreements with people. But we if something happens, everyone they'll be the first to know on Facebook when something when we're up to something new.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, and that is something that whenever I have people that come on, that are a little bit more in the light, they have things coming up and I'm like, I can't talk about it. I'm like, I know, I get it. It's okay.
It makes you sound so pretentious. I can't talk about it. I have my people call your people. But it is true. It is true. There's a lot of things that we're working on other than that. And hopefully, some of it comes to fruition and we can talk about it later.
Yes. And then before I let you go, one more quick question, because I don't know, I don't remember if you said this or not, but when you guys do the investigators, do you share like EVPs and stuff like that?
Oh yeah. So we have a Patreon page that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So basically it's Klinge Brothers podcast. And if you go to the Patreon page, I think it's like $3 a month or something like that. We put all the behind the scenes stuff. So if we talk about EVPs that we had or pictures or some of the locations, even on Ominous. So a lot of things on Ominous that we talk about the story, we'll put the pictures of the real location and kind of the story. All that behind the scenes stuff is on our Patreon page.
Awesome.
And you can get to it through Facebook and through our website. And, if you can't find us, you're blind.
I would like to thank you so much for coming on. I do, wish you the best of luck with everything. Hope you come back on again after everything, comes to fruition and, everything's going good and you can talk about stuff. And I did move the JFK thing to June 1st and I still have you on there. If you can't make it, I get it. I understand, but it's still open for you to come on if you would like to come on.
Okay. All right.
There was one other thing I was going to say. I forget. I have ADD really bad, but thank you so much for coming on. And I appreciate every second that you gave and that talked about stuff. I appreciate it.
No problem. Appreciate it.
There are a lot of people watching. So everybody go to Brad Klinge's page and like and share. And do you guys have a YouTube? No?
We do. We have again, the time to put the videos out. When we have our documentaries finished, we'll put them out on the YouTube.
Gotcha.
Our YouTube is very, very small, just because, like I said, just the time.
Yeah.
But when we have stuff, we'll put it out there.
Awesome. And I'll be sharing it for sure once I see it. Like I said, I've always been a huge fan, so I think you guys are great, and I like what you do for the paranormal community. So I appreciate that. Keep doing it.
All right, thank you. And
there's little youngings coming up. They need to have somebody to look up to that knows what they're doing instead of all the YouTubers out there.
As I've aged, so went from having all the dark hair on Ghost Lab to everything going gray. So it's like, man, I've been around a while.
Well, we all love it and appreciate it, and thank you so much.
All right,
and you have a good night.
All right, you too.
All right, I'll see you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.